Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to another incredible episode of Empowered Conversations, where I have amazing conversations with extraordinary people who are out in the world doing beautiful things in service to others, living life with intention and on purpose. Truly trying to thrive and trying to live dedicated to living their best lives. And that is none other than my guest today, Jonathan Powell. Guys, this is a very sensitive subject. Let me get my comments on here. And this is something that needs to be talked about, there needs to be a much greater awareness around this. And that's what I'm going to say for now, but I'm going to introduce my guest, Jonathan Powell. Jonathan is from Indianapolis, Indiana. He currently does resale jobs for his landlord and sidewalk chalk advertisements. Battling homelessness for over 10 years, Jonathan was often disregarded and treated as if getting himself out of homelessness was as simple as the snap of a finger. He was often approached by unaware people who would say to him, "Why don't you just get a job?" Jonathan will share the fact that getting oneself out of homelessness is not such a simple task. It is a complex issue that requires education and better solutions. Jonathan is fed up with most of the current outreach programs he has experienced in Indianapolis and wants to start his own outreach team to educate people how to survive, live on the streets, as well as educate regular people about the challenges that homeless people face day to day. Jonathan wants to break the stereotype that all homeless people are either drug addicts or too lazy to work. Jonathan says that's ridiculous. If I don't teach people about the problems, then we cannot create solutions, he says. Now, guys, without further ado, drum roll, please help me in welcoming my phenomenal guest today, Jonathan Powell.
Hey, how's it going, Stephanie?
Hey, Jonathan, it's going wonderful. How are you doing today?
I'm blessed. I'm doing pretty good.
Yes. It's such an honor to have you here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. You and I have conversed a few times, and every time I speak with you, I'm just like elated, and I'm just so inspired by what you're sharing and by your passion to want to educate and to help others as you yourself have been helped and as you continue to do for yourself. And it's just, thank you so much for being here today.
That's awesome. I'm glad to know that you're inspired by what I'm trying to do. I'm really trying to
Yes.
get the message out there, just to there's so many aspects of homelessness that's overlooked and that people are just completely unaware of. And
Mhm.
that's something I'm just trying to shed light on to, just so people can understand. You know, how if people don't understand what homeless people are going through, then
Mhm.
how can homeless people expect those normal people to even care? If you don't know what they're going through, then it makes it very difficult for you to actually care. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You don't know what you don't know until you are made aware that it even exists. And
Correct.
I mean, everyone can be, no one is educated on every single thing that exists, every single possibility. And so oftentimes people will, act from that unawareness or think from that unawareness. And, again, through that, action, be unkind or be unfeeling. And I know that you experience that quite often. So tell me, Jonathan, how was it, like, what all led to the fact that you found yourself, you know without a home, without a place to lay your head and find
Well,
comfort?
it was it was definitely mental illness. I used to walk around downtown Indianapolis, Indiana, talking to myself out loud. There was voices in my head, so I was talking to the voices. But
Mhm.
basically, it was a long battle with my priorities. The only reason I stopped talking to the voices is because I had a self realization. The
Mhm.
self realization was, hey, what's important in life? Do I want to talk to these voices all day? Or do I want to go get some food and some money and try to find some shelter where I can get a decent night's sleep? You
Right.
know, I had to decide what was more important to me in my life because
Right.
these conversations that I was having in my head with these voices, they were very captivating conversations, very illuminating, very
Right.
powerful. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We used to talk about some very interesting stuff, but that's and here's another thing that I noticed. When I was out there panhandling, I got to socially interact with all different kinds of people, real people. You know what I
You
mean?
are a real person. All people are real people. Don't never look at yourself as anything less than anybody else ever. Ever.
Yeah.
And, I know when you're talking about these voices that you were referring to the schizophrenia that you were diagnosed with.
Yes, ma'am. I was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and they tried pumping me with all kinds of medication,
Mhm.
and none of that stuff ever worked. None of it. Only that self realization on what was
Mhm.
important to me in my life. When I stopped talking to the voices, they stopped talking to me over a long period of time. They stopped talking to
Right.
me. Now, at nighttime, when I lay down, I can still hear them, but I
Mhm.
never engage in the conversation and I just ignore them. You know what I'm saying? And I basically, I'm trying to move forward with my life now because I got the voices under control. There was a long time that I had an anger problem. I had a severe anger problem. I was like a rageaholic for like 10 years, from like 14, and I want to say from like 10 years old all the way up to like 20 years old. Well, I don't know. It's probably like 13 to 23
Mhm.
years old. I had a bad anger problem. I beat that anger problem, and a lot of people who suffer from anger problem. Let me tell you the singular biggest solution that could ever solve that, and it's forgiveness.
Yeah.
And you might think that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you right now, when you forgive everybody that's ever done you wrong in your life, it is like a ton of bricks off your chest. You got to
Absolutely.
wholeheartedly, with all your heart, forgive those people. And I even went to all these people individually and I told them straight up, hey, you did this and this and this and this to me, but guess what? I forgive you and I love you, and there's no hard feelings on it. And I forgave them. And
Wow.
after that, I was able to move forward with my life. I used to
Yes.
replay that stuff in my head, all that bad stuff they did to me. I used to replay it
Mhm.
in my head, and I would think about it at night. I would think about revenge,
Mhm.
and all this stuff. I mean, it was like walking around with a bunch of hatred and resentment and negativity in my heart and in my mind. But then I was able to move forward with my life after I forgave those people. Now
Absolutely, Jonathan.
I disassociated with all those people
Right.
because they're still bad people, but I forgave them, and I some of those people, I still love those people,
Right.
some of them, but I just don't associate with them because they're bad people, and I forgive them. There's no hard feelings. I never think bad thoughts about them, never. So
Good.
that you know. And as far as the mental illness thing goes, so there was one thing that really helped me a lot when it comes to clearing my head. And I
Mhm.
know this sounds kind of real simple, but hey, I'll tell you right now, it works. You go for a walk. Because whenever you're in a house or something like that, for some reason those voices really start to hit you. You know what I'm saying? Those voices really want to interact with you. So if you're really going through it with them voices, hey, stop what you're doing, stop everything you're doing, go for a walk instantly. I'm telling you right now, it works. It'll help you clear your head.
Jonathan, I have such admiration and respect for, because schizophrenia is it's a disease that oftentimes people are not able to control. And what I have such an admiration, because I'm not educated, so I cannot speak about what, exactly what schizophrenia all entails, but what I know, that it is a very, very powerful takeover of the mind. And the fact that you were able to recognize what was happening, and then as well, work to, I be damn, I'm not allowing that to govern and to dictate my life. I'm going to work. You, even in that state of having a schizophrenic episode, you were conscious enough to go, no, I'm going to think this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to work on this, and going for a walk. And you know Jonathan, so many people, when you talk about forgiveness, that's one of the biggest things I think that so many people grapple with, and why they stay complacent in a spot where they're not growing, where they're not evolving, where they're not able to move past and bring something greater into their life, is because they're so stuck in what happened to them instead of through them. And when you took the initiative to forgive, to go to each person and say, I forgive you, I love you, I don't have to hang out with your ass, but I forgive you and I love you. Um, that's for you, Jonathan. What they do with that forgiveness is on them. But what you did for yourself, and what you're here sharing with my audience, is anybody and everybody can learn. What a powerful, valuable lesson. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So basically, if you're focusing on the past, you cannot see the future. And that's something people do not understand. When you are reflecting on the past constantly, then you are not able to see the future. You can't focus on the future. If you're not focusing on the future, then you're not manifesting and creating your future.
Yes, and it, because it's messing with your present, which then screws up the future.
Exactly.
Yes. Golly,
Exactly.
wow.
Yeah. If something bad happened to you in the past, leave it in the past. Hey, leave it alone. Hey, that just leave that behind you and move forward. You know what I'm saying? Roll with them punches.
I do. I do. I'm right there with you. So,
Well,
go ahead.
so basically, in terms of stuff I want to educate people about homelessness about, is that
Yes.
there's a huge epidemic of homeless people stealing from other homeless people. And basically, they walk around in packs at nighttime in order to steal the book bags from the homeless people that's already fell asleep. Okay. And basically, there's a very huge problem with identification. I knew a guy from Africa, and it took him 9 years to get his proper identification from his home country. That's 9 years. He couldn't get a job. He couldn't get homeless services. They wouldn't even let him in the homeless shelter because he did not have identification. So in terms of homelessness, acquiring their identification and being able to hold on to their identification is a big problem. That's a
Right.
significant issue. It's
Right.
it's an average for for Hispanic people from Mexico, it's an
Mhm.
average of 4 or 5 years for them to get the proper identification from their home country. So people don't understand. A lot of people cannot get jobs because
Right.
they don't have identification.
I have a girlfriend who moved here from Denmark who went through a similar issue with becoming, a U.S. citizen. It is a long, long, arduous process. And it's so easy to say, illegals, illegals, instead of like so many illegals, which nobody is illegal. I don't care what part of the earth you're living on or where you're from, where you were born. Everybody belongs on every inch of the earth. My opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Me too. I
But
agree with you.
it's like we're all born on the earth. Anyway, I'm not going on that tangent, but I know just from her experience and hearing about other people's experience that it's such a long, arduous process to try to become legal with documentation, and that being said, that like so your friend that was from Africa that took 9 years to establish any type of identification, so he just relied on the kindness and the generosity of those that would, give to him, correct?
Correct.
Right. So and I'm gonna, share my experience. I'm a part of a group, that most people know of, Atheist Helping the Homeless. We literally had a giveaway this past Sunday. And in my experience, they come, that we set up this giveaway the first Sunday or Saturday of every month. And we're there with other organizations there to provide everything from things that most of us take for granted, like toothbrush, toothpaste, lotion, shampoo, basic like clothing, hand warmers. I mean, you name it, batteries, flashlights, and the people, most of the people who come through, they're so gracious, Jonathan. They're always like, thank you. And, and it's like, you're welcome. And, it's all about just the things that we take for granted. And what I've noticed just in some of the interactions that I've had is I've noticed that, so many look out for one another. And I remember right after, during COVID, we couldn't do our giveaways. And we started back. So instead, we used to cook breakfast. We used to have pancakes and sausage and eggs and hash browns and along with the clothes and all the toiletries and stuff. And we uh we couldn't do that anymore with the food because we were all still wearing masks, and it was, somewhat not yet safe, completely safe to give away food. But we would go to the storage unit and we would pack these bags, and they would be filled with what we felt like, that what we saw them mostly picking up every week, or every time we were there. And we would be handing out bags, and I remember on a couple occasions trying to hand out bags to ones who were like, oh, I already got one, but so and so needs one. Here, trying to oh, I already have a bag, thank you, but so and so needs one. And I remember this other story of this is back when we were making food, when we were preparing. There was a gentleman sitting behind me under a tree, and he was eating his food on his plate. And I remember hearing him. I turned around because I heard him speak. He yelled out to another one of his friends. He's like, hey, so and so, here's that $2 I owe you from the bus pass last week. And it just, in my experience, like it seems, I'm not saying that what you have experienced, like people stealing book bags. I mean, that's so sad, but they're also good, and they're also like looking out for one another, and here's the $2 you let me borrow $2 last week so I could ride the bus, and here it is back. And those are just some of the beautiful experiences that I have had, when I've gone to, our various, giveaways. But Jonathan, that being said, what can we do? So what do you feel is a solution to that, to
Well,
someone,
the actual solution to homelessness is, I kind of have a simplistic outlook on it. So basically, the materials that's used to build a house cost too much. So we need to create materials to make a house that are much more cost efficient. We need to find uh alternative materials to make a house. The cost of lumber, the cost of drywall, the cost of electrical wire and all that stuff has got very high prices. So we need to create materials to build a house that's definitely much more cost efficient, and we need to create techniques and methods of putting up a house that is much more cost efficient in regards to labor. So we need to figure out ways that's cheaper to put up a house, techniques that's cheaper to put up a house, and we need to
Hmm.
create materials that's cheaper than the current materials we're using. Now, as far as electricity and water and stuff like that goes, we need to create we need to create what I would call like a rain catcher, and you would hook it up right to your I'm trying to think, the gutter that comes
Huh?
down from
Yeah.
your roof. You would hook it up to your roof, and it would catch all the rainwater. And at the bottom of this rain catcher, the water comes out into a pipe, and it automatically would purify the water. You know what I'm saying? To where
I do.
it's purified. But also put solar panels on the roof to where they get electricity. You see what I'm saying? You wouldn't
Hmm.
have to put in like a firewall or some kind of way to store the energy after it's been obtained by the solar panels.
Hmm.
Um, and as far as the land, I mean, the land. Now, bear with me. Bear with me. Hey, this is just ideas now, but I've thought
Love
about it
it.
quite a bit. The land could be donated from each individual city or district as a form of like tax write-off. So let's
Hmm.
say a real estate company owns a bunch of land. Well, they'll donate it to the city for tax write-off. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, and you could. I mean, this is just a rough draft, but that's kind of in my mind what it would look like to have very cheap housed. I mean, it's a
Affordable.
affordable. Yes, well, affordable. And but here's a big problem in society of homelessness right now is enablement, because the first few years that I was homeless, it was like liberation. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed myself. It was pretty nice. It was like I could do whatever I want whenever I want. There was no responsibilities. I mean, I actually had a pretty good time. I was staying at the shelter. It wasn't that bad. But that shelter down there is a complete joke, and it'll drive any sane man crazy real quick. So I had I
Right.
had to get out of there. You know what I mean? So I ended up for the last 7 years that I was homeless, I stayed in a tent under a bridge, a few different
Hmm.
bridges really, and I was also a part of a tent city.
Hmm.
Shout out to Maurice Young. That man's done more for the homeless community in this city than any nonprofit, than anybody, anything. But anyways, so my point is that there's a difference between domestic homeless people and non-domestic homeless people. I was non-domesticated for 7 years.
What does that
So when
mean?
so a non-domestic homeless person, it has to do with our hygiene and our social etiquette and our household etiquette. Like, my grandma, she'll say, if you got mud on your boots, you better take off them shoes at the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And an average person knows to take off their shoes when they got mud on their shoes. but I was non-domesticated, so I didn't know that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's almost like it's almost like housebreaking a dog. I know that sounds messed up. It really does. But I mean, that's the only way I know how to compare what I'm talking about. But basically, and like, okay, here's an example. So I would be talking to a preacher, and I'd
Hmm.
be dropping the f bomb like every other word. And my point is that I was used to talking to only homeless people. That was
Yeah.
my life. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I didn't really know not to cuss around um, kids, and not to cuss around preachers and stuff like that. I, it's just like, and also
That's
it's like,
fun.
I would wear the same clothes for like a week. You know what I'm saying? I was taking bird baths in
Yeah.
the local restaurants. I was taking bird baths in their bathroom in the sink. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Hmm.
Even to this day, I still blow my nose in my t-shirt. Hey, that's the last thing. That's the absolute last thing that I cannot break. I don't know
Yeah.
why. But so it just comes to like household etiquette, social etiquette,
Hmm.
hygiene, and stuff like that, as far as the domestic and non-domestic goes.
Hmm.
Um, but basically, there's just a huge, like, in my opinion, 75% of the homeless people were willing to work,
Yes.
but
Hmm.
only 10% of them were able to hold down a job. And I'll tell you why.
Right.
You know,
Right.
homeless people willing to work is not a problem. There's plenty of them willing to work, but being able to hold down a job is very
Right.
difficult when you're
Right.
homeless, because you don't
Right.
got transportation, you don't
Right.
got communication, you ain't got a cell phone, you ain't got nothing. I mean, and here's the big thing. A lot of homeless people are very sleep deprived.
Yeah.
That's a real big problem.
Yeah.
But again, back to the identification. You can't get a job if you ain't got identification.
Yeah.
Um, During the time of my homelessness, women had it the absolute worst. They were instant targets. As soon as a woman becomes homeless, she's a target. She is a source of cheap sex,
Yeah.
drug money, and all kinds of stuff. I mean, they were out here getting raped, getting beaten. They would get them hooked on drugs. Male homeless people would get them hooked on drugs to try to manipulate and control the female homeless person. You know, it was very ugly. If
Yeah.
to all the outreaches and all that's listening, if you can give pepper spray to female homeless people, that is the absolute.
We give that out. We do that when we have it. We definitely give that out.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. You guys do that, because that's very important, because these women, they are not safe out here on the streets. I'll
Right.
tell you that right now. Uh, but so, and as far as like, so if you guys know anybody that's homeless, I just want to share a few little things about how to survive on the streets. Um, Basically, you got to get you some side hustles. Like dumpster diving, panhandling. Also, you can buy merchandise and resell it on Facebook Marketplace, or just to people on the streets. You
Hmm.
know, that's something that I used to do. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of homeless. There's a lot of homeless discrimination. You know,
Yes.
I used to go to this one. I used to go to this store. It was really cheap, and I just liked a lot of the stuff there. And sometimes I would find something on sale, and I would buy it to resell it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Many people do that. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to what
Well,
you were saying
well,
earlier about some of the solutions, um, when you were talking about affordable housing, like building more affordable housings out of materials that aren't as expensive or as an higher price, my friend regular Carl actually knows that you can build a house structure out of used rubber tires, like motor vehicle tires. And instead of, like, you can recycle out of recycled tires, you can build homes. And like what you were talking about, like with the solar panels, I don't know if you've heard of there is a Netflix series called Down to Earth with Zac Efron, and it's all about creating a more sustainable planet by, by in essence recycling and reusing and conserving resources and using alternate resources that don't pollute the air. And in one episode, specifically to what you said earlier about like a sustainable house that doesn't run on electricity or have like running water. There is a home, I can't remember. Oh, they're in Australia. And this season they're in Australia, and there's a home where like several people live there, and everything that is to do with the house, whether it's food preparation, whether it's extrication, whether it's growing food, whatever it is, the house is 100% like a sustainable house and run on complete and 100% natural resources without running water and electricity and polluting the air. So what Jonathan is sharing with us is possible. It is possible. But it's about the awareness and the thought process. Like what you're sharing, Jonathan, is you don't know what you don't know until you're made aware. It's just about thinking outside of that box and asking the question. I have someone on here, Carol Boston, empowering questions. What else is possible? What else is possible? And there are numerous, infinite possibilities to
Well, can I can I
create
answer
what you're
that
talking about.
question?
Yes, yes.
So I would like to answer that question. Basically, one third, no, it's one fourth to one fifth of all the food here in America is thrown away
Yeah.
daily. One fourth of all the food in America is thrown away. Now, you might think, oh, well, that's probably just like, the scraps or what. No, no. You go behind these restaurants and you look at all the you look in the trash cans, you look in the
Mhm.
dumpsters, because I've dug and I used to eat out the trash. And
Right,
I'll tell you right now, there is tons and tons of food that these restaurants throw away.
right.
Now they have this crazy, crazy excuse. They say that according to the health department standards and the CDC, they are required to throw that food away instead of giving it to homeless people or whatever. Well, let me tell you, there's an actual loophole about that, and that's not actually true. That's actually a lie. They can give that food away.
Mhm,
They can give
mhm.
that food away, and there's ways around that. They're
Do you know
not.
what the loophole is called? Do you know
I
what the loophole
don't,
is
but
called?
I know that they're not legally required to throw it away. It's a legal liability for them to
Right.
give it away. You see what I'm saying? So they're not legally required. They could give it to someone else, and
And
what and
that's
who?
a matter of writing some stuff, rewriting some stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Simple.
if I give it to somebody else, whatever they do with it is their responsibility. You see what I'm saying? So my point is that these restaurants, they need to figure out a way to where, hey, all the leftover food that we didn't sell today, we need
Mhm.
to give it to and so will write us a statement or whatever, and then so and so can go give it to the homeless people. That way,
Right.
whoever the restaurant gives that food to, they're the ones responsible, and the restaurant is not responsible. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes, Jonathan. Yes.
So that would be my main solution in terms of the food, but
Mhm.
also the vertical uh, the vertical farms, and also
Mhm.
the rooftop farms. Farms that are integrated into the cities. I think
Mhm.
definitely is necessary because we're running out of land. I mean, we need to
Right.
start utilizing that.
Yes. Yes, I love these solutions. And again, you're bringing an awareness that some people may not have thought about, or they're like, well, there's a reason because the restaurants will be liable. Well, okay, that might be a fact at this present time, but that doesn't mean that we can't change that fact by rewriting something and to enable. Again, just look at the end result. This is what we want. So don't worry about how to get there. Just focus on the end result, and the solutions will come. That's regardless of anything in life. Focus on the end result. Focus on what you want, and then and just keep an open mind, keep an open heart about the possibilities to have what it is that you want, what it is that your heart desires. And yes,
Yeah, yeah, and it's like when I was out on the streets, it was basically like, you know, the actual people of my city, they helped me out more than anything. The actual generosity of people. Oh
yeah,
yeah, hold on. I wanted to say some different techniques on how people can survive homelessness. Get you some side hustles, like I was saying. Also, separate yourself from all the other homeless people, because you do not want to be one of those homeless people that's hanging around the wrong crowd. Okay. Also, you need to get in the habit of saying no. Like, for real. Hey, they ask you, hey, you want to try this drug? No. Hey, you want to sell some drugs for me? No. What I mean? Get in the habit of
right,
just saying no. So
right,
that's very important. But also, whenever you pop up a tent or you have a camping site or whatever, you need to make sure that your camping site is away from everybody else. You don't want it to be around none of the other homeless people and where they sleep, okay?
right.
Because they might rob you at night or something like that. But and here's the thing though, the drug epidemic is the singular most that's the significant cause of homelessness other than mental illness.
Yeah.
And also, thirdly, there's a third one, and it's that family does not look out for each other like they used to. Back 60, 70 years ago, family used to really look out for each other. But
Hmm.
these days, family just don't look out for you like they used to, man.
So
Man,
you're saying that there's not as much of a strong family unit.
the families are so broken because of the drug epidemics, and so destroyed by mental illness, drug addiction,
Hmm.
deaths, this and that, and it's just the
Oh no. Uh-oh.
but
Oh,
I just
add to
think
string.
that
There he is. Okay. Yeah, you were gone for a second. It's like, boop, where'd he go?
yeah, but also as far as like surviving homelessness, you need to write down all the places that serve free food, the time and dates that they serve free food, and you need to get in the schedule of that. You know what I'm saying? Get
Hmm.
that free government phone, okay, from True Connect, SafeLink, something like that. That definitely helps. Holding on to your identification, like you're holding on to your life. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
like like
Yeah.
your life depends on it. You know what I mean? Also, once you get a cell phone and you're homeless, start keeping all the numbers to all these different outreach teams. Keep all the numbers to all these different resources. Keep all the numbers to actual individual people that's willing to help you. Like I mean, literally strangers, that are
Yeah.
literally willing to help you. I look when I used
Right.
to panhandle. I'll tell you a little story. I used to panhandle all the time, right? Well, there was this doctor, and he come up to me one time, and he handed me his business card, and he said, "My personal number's on that card." He said, "If you ever need anything," he said, "I mean literally anything at all, you call me, and I will get it to you." He said, "I'm a very busy guy, so I might not be able to get it to you right away, but I'll get it to you." He said, "I never hand out money, so don't ever ask for money." He said, "If you need a tent, I'll give you a tent." He said, "If you need He said, if you need bus passes, I'll get you bus passes, and this and that. And you'd be really surprised what people are willing to do. I seen this
Mhm.
one lady. She was homeless. She had two kids at her ex's house, and her ex
Yeah.
was a real POS. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this pastor, he had like 5 or 6 vehicles. He donated one of his vehicles to this homeless lady because she wasn't on drugs and she was a mother of two kids. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that,
That's wonderful.
you know what I'm saying? Like you
Mhm.
never know what. I'll tell you a story about people's generosity. So I was panhandling, right? I had a bunch of food. I mean, more food I could even carry, right? When I was panhandling, I had been panhandling for 10 hours that day. And this guy walks past me. I said, "Hey, bro, would you want any of this food? I got a lot more extra food if you'd like any of this food." And it was good food too, by the way. And he said, "No, no, that's okay. No, thank you." I said, "Well, here, take it with you anyway, and give it to a homeless person." That's what
There
I
you are.
said. So
I missed
that's
all
what I
that. We were gone, Jonathan. For some reason, we were gone, and I missed every bit of that. There's an internet issue. What could you repeat that?
So basically, I wanted to tell you a story of generosity.
Yes. Yes. I
Um,
heard about the
so
doctor, but then yeah, it was like the last 20 seconds.
so there was this guy. I was panhandling on a corner for like 10 hours, and I was tired. I was ready to go to my spot and go to sleep. So I had all this food. I had more food with me than I could even carry. Okay, so I was gonna give the rest of the food away. You know what I mean? So this guy, he walks past me. I said, "Hey man, you want all this food, man? This because I had a whole book bag full of food, but all the other food that I couldn't carry, I was gonna give it away." So he goes, "No, no, no, thank you. I don't need no food." And I put it I put it right in his hands. It was a big bag
Yeah.
of food. I put it in his hands and I said, "Here, take it anyway and give it to a homeless person." That's what I told him. And he goes, "Well, you're not going to believe this." He said, I was looking for a homeless person to bless with a meal." He said, I'm about to go in Ruth Chris
Yes.
Steakhouse, and I was going to celebrate with my business partner, and we want to treat a homeless person today. Uh, and I said, "Well, hell," I said, "Well, I'm your guy." I said,
Oh,
"Well, I'll give you
yeah. Ruth Chris is
that."
delicious. You know what?
Right? So,
To that
so
point, talking about, giving to others is, oftentimes as well when I'm at one of our giveaways, like on Sunday, I remember the gentleman to my left, was, he was responsible for the batteries. And I remember him giving, he was talking to this one gentleman who was like, he goes, "Do you need some batteries?" He goes, "Oh," he's like, "I need double A, not triple A." And he says, "Oh, we're completely out of double A." And the gentleman making the comment, he said, "Oh, I don't take anything I don't need." And I often hear that during these giveaways is what, because, we're all there, offering, putting, handing them things. And oftentimes you'll hear, "Oh, no, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. I don't need that." Or, but I might, or I know somebody who does. But like I said, in my experience, it's like they don't take more, most of the time, like, at least I have an experience. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm saying in my experience, like the greed that one would think, ignorantly think, is apparent in a population of people who don't have very much. They would just take everything that they can and just hoard. No, in my experience, they take what they need and they don't take more than that.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree from my experience as well. But also, as far as what you're saying about homeless people looking out for each other, that's very real. But
Hmm.
it's separated into different categories. The
I
the
know.
homeless
Yeah.
people that's been chronically homeless for many, many years, those homeless people look out for each other.
Right.
The homeless people that have just become homeless, or have been homeless for not that long, they don't really look out for each other. And
I
I'll
can
straight up,
imagine. Yeah, I can
yeah. I mean,
imagine.
they're not, they don't really understand the gravity of the seriousness of homelessness. You know,
Right.
some people think they can just call their mom or dad or whatever. Well, how long is that going to last? You know what I mean?
You know, that to that point, I remember when I lived in Myrtle Beach, this was, over 20 years ago. And there was this gentleman, and we called him the hardworking homeless man. He had a long hair, a long beard, and he diligently, on purpose, just walked up and down the sidewalks, pulling a cart or whatever. I mean, for years and years, you just see him, and he wore a brown shirt and brown shorts, or if it were wintertime, he was wearing pants. But you know, and his family was very well off financially. They were considered like really some of the most well off people in the Myrtle Beach area, and they had on a few occasions set him up in an apartment fully furnished. And this is about a mental health here, and he would sell it. He would sell everything in the apartment and then go live on the streets. And you'd always just see him just diligently just walking up and down the streets, carrying, whether it was a bag, whether it was a cart with the stuff. And we always, we referred to the hardworking homeless man. And, again, it's it you shared with me in your bio, it's not about, oh, I'm lazy, I don't want to work. Because I also remember this boy that I knew in my early 20s who had been homeless. He was a runaway as a teenager, and he lived on a bus, an abandoned bus, with other homeless people. And I remember him sharing with me, you know, yeah, oh yeah, go get a job, whatever. He goes, it's not that easy. If you don't have a toothbrush to brush your teeth, or a place to shower, to make yourself presentable, to go into even McDonald's, you're not going to be able to. So, you know, and like you shared earlier, that, a lot of these, they want to work, but then being able to sustain and keep that job to then create the prosperity that they're worthy of having, it becomes issue if you don't have a stable place to lay your head, if you don't have stability with financial resources, or food resources, or just basic care resources that most of us take for granted.
Yeah, yeah. All the simple things, all the simple stuff that an average person does, like get something to eat, take a shower, get a night's of sleep, you know, get some hygiene, throw on some hygiene. All that stuff is very, very difficult when you're homeless. See,
Yeah.
everything in Indianapolis closes down about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and then let's say you have to take a poop around 1 a.m. in the morning. Okay,
Yeah.
so then you basically got to go take a poop in an alley. Okay, and then you got to wipe your butt with a sock. Okay,
Yeah.
I've done that a lot, for real. But also, so there's one thing I wanted to explain to people, is that what work is a very stereotyped concept in itself. We think of work as a 9 to 5 actual job, but
Right.
there's all different kinds of independent services that
Hmm.
people can offer,
Absolutely.
independent skills that people can offer, you know, for under the table money, and that's not considered to be work, because that's a stereotype. You know, they're stereotyping what work is. You see what I'm saying? I
Hmm.
know a homeless guy. He could paint you a Picasso painting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's not technically considered a 9 to 5 job. You know what I'm saying? So it's
There are so many ways to receive financial abundance. So many infinite amount of ways to receive financial abundance. Yes.
yep.
Yes.
So
So, so Jonathan, tell us, so you are, where are you living now? Because I know you shared with me one of the first times we talked that you are not homeless and you have a place to stay. And I also want them to know about what you shared with me today with the gentleman that you're helping that lives with you.
well, basically, I have a homeless guy that sleeps on my floor, and he's got a full time job. He's a very nice person. I know him through my stepbrother because he used to work with my stepbrother.
Yeah.
It's a very funny story how I got out of homelessness. When the COVID-19 hit, the homeless people were the most susceptible to catch
Yeah.
the COVID-19. So it
Hmm.
became a part of the stimulus package for the homeless people to get free housing. And we got in these hotels for free too. First we were at the hotels, and then we got the free apartment. If you got the if you got in the hotel, you were guaranteed the free apartment. If you got the apartment, you were guaranteed Section 8 for life.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yes. And now you are generously sharing your space with somebody who is in need. And you were sharing with me that he has a girlfriend and children, and share that story of how he's letting her have the car.
Well, basically, his old lady, he's got like two kids, and he's got a girlfriend that he's been with for many years, and it just wasn't working out. So basically, his girlfriend kicked him out, but he could have took the vehicle, but he chose to leave the vehicle with his baby mother because so that she has the vehicle for the kids. You know what I mean? She's gonna
Right.
need it kind of much more than he will, so to speak.
Right, of
Even though
course.
he walks 2 miles to work, and he walks back 2 miles from work.
And
So
and like, wow, what an amazing story of, again, perseverance and determination to create based upon the resources at hand, the best life possible. And the more, that you expound upon that, the greater, more opportunities show up. And that's just so wonderful of you to help him. That's just
yeah,
wonderful, Jonathan.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
also want to say to everybody that's listening that in my lifetime, the homelessness has become a huge corporate business, and that
Share that.
there is so many nonprofits and churches and all these different places that they are all about money. And
Hmm.
now they're legally entitled to 15 to 20% of everything that's donated to them. So if $100 million is donated to them, they're legally entitled to keep $20 million out of that money. You see what I'm saying? But in my personal experience, in my
Are those
personal
are
experience,
those covering operating expenses? Because, like, for instance, we have a storage unit that obviously we have to pay a monthly fee, but but that's where we keep everything, and then we, put it out on that, on, whenever we're there. But other than that, no one is receiving a salary. No one's receiving any monetary. Every other dollar because we also take donations. We also take donations from people because we do purchase things from Amazon in bulk, and that is through the generosity of donations as well, through us, through the members ourselves, as well
yeah,
as other people who donate. And but there, I know, but no one receives any money outside of that
yeah,
in
I'm
our
not I'm not
particular
I'm not
organization.
I'm not referring to you and your city.
No, I'm
I'm
just saying, like, in general, I'm trying to figure out, like, where would they need that for operating expenses? Like that's a
No,
little excessive, I
let me
think.
let me finish what I was saying.
Okay.
There is
I
there
apologize.
is there is tons of financial corruption at the Wheeler Mission Men's Shelter, and also with all different kinds of the much larger, more corporate nonprofits, and the Salvation Army, Goodwill. I mean, there's also like a lot of churches and stuff like that. They try to use homelessness as uh, fish bait for people to donate money. And I'm telling you, a small, because I know the numbers, there's a small percentage of that money that actually goes to the homelessness, that actually goes to homeless people, in various ways. So
Hmm.
I would say like 15% out of 100%, 15% of that goes to the homeless people. The Wheeler Mission is the worst. I mean, that is the absolute worst. I could quote some numbers, but I'm not going to, because I know we're on the positive vibe, and we're going to keep it that way. You know what I mean? But
So Jonathan, real quick, because we're about to end the podcast here in just a few minutes, I want you to share, because in your bio you talk about yourself wanting to create an outreach program. So what would you share some of the ways in which you would create this outreach program for people that are in need?
Okay, so there's a huge 18-foot trailer, enclosed trailer that pulls up, right? Okay, there's a big old truck that's pulling the trailer, and there's another 18-foot trailer that pulls up, being pulled by a different truck. Okay, one
Okay.
of those 18-foot trailers is for showers. There'd be 2 or 3 showers inside that trailer. Okay, it's a mobile shower unit. Okay, the other the other trailer has got all kinds of food, clothes, stuff like that. And basically, what we would do is we would set these tables out in a vacant parking lot, and we would serve really good food. Not no BS. I mean some good food. Okay, and because it's been a very long time that these people have actually had a home cooked meal, a good meal.
Right. Right.
Okay, so
Right.
just giving them, the bare minimal or whatever, man, forget all that. Show
Yeah.
them show them some love. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But also, a lot of these homeless outreaches don't bring condiments. Bring some condiments, okay? That's
Yeah,
important.
everybody's got those little soy sauce packs and ketchup packs. I have seen exactly what you're talking about with a trailer that has showers, and I know there's a gentleman. I haven't seen him in a while, but he shows up and he provides haircuts.
That's another big thing too. But
Yeah.
I was also going to say that there would be speakers that's mounted on the outside of the trailer, and we would play songs that have positive message. They don't it I'm not talking about Christian music. I'm just saying music in general that's got a positive message. And
Yes.
we would play music like that, and we would let the homeless people pick what kind of songs they want to listen to. You know what I'm saying? So they would be eating some awesome food while they're listening to some great music, and they're
Yeah.
getting some clothes too and stuff like that. And here's the thing: the people that would come with me, we would sit there and we would listen to the homeless people and talk to them personally, to hear their problems, to try to give them a
Yes.
little advice, and to let
Yes.
them vent. You know what I'm saying? Because that's more important
Yes.
to homeless people than any amount of money you could give them.
Yes.
If you listen to
Yes.
them and talk to them, it's worth more than anything like that.
100%, Jonathan. 100% listening, giving people a voice, having just listening. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Jonathan, it has been just such an incredible pleasure having you here today. Thank you so much for coming on and all the work that you're doing. I've heard some of your other appearances on other podcasts, and just, it's just so heart pounding what you're doing, what you're doing for yourself, what you've done
Yep.
for yourself, now what you're doing for others, and being a voice, for other people. And is there any last things that you would like to share real quick before we end today?
Yeah. If you guys would like to help me get my outreach going, Goody Goody 23 at at the Cash App or Zelly
Zell?
Zelle.
Okay.
But also there's a so like you know
Pen's out of
you can
ink.
hit me up on Facebook, Jonathan Powell at Facebook, JON. And hit me up on Facebook on Messenger. I have some forms of ways you could pay, donate for you could. And here's the thing: if you give me any money or anything like that, I'll send you pictures of the receipts, and I'll send you pictures of the actual stuff that we purchased. And whenever we do an outreach, whenever we go serve everything to the homeless people, I'll send you a footage of us doing that. Okay?
Love it. So real quick, my pen was out of ink. What is your Cash App? Now, you're tagged in all of this, so people will be able to click on your name through this broadcast for Facebook.
Yeah.
But what was you said Cash App and Zelle. What was that?
The Cash App was Goody 23 at Cash App. Let me. Is there any way I could? Let me. Dang. Is there any way I could? Dang, because I gotta click out. I gotta click out of this to. Am I able to
Don't
click?
worry.
Am I?
No, don't do that, Jonathan. But we are about to end, so real quick, what you'll do
Oh,
is
hold on. Hold on. I figured it out. I figured it out. It's
okay.
okay. So it's Bryant Goodman at Zealy, and that's and you don't. Hold on. I'm trying to think.
I was just I was
Oh, I
corresponding with
figured it
Bryant
out.
yesterday. I was corresponding with Bryant yesterday.
Right, and here I use his thing because I'm not able to get one. So, anyways, but I trust that man with my life. But he's actually a saint.
Yeah,
That man is really a saint. And hey, you know
very
what?
nice. He lives here in
His,
Charlotte,
his
y'all.
mother, hold on, his mother just had surgery. If everybody could pray for his mother, I'd appreciate it. But
Absolutely. What kind of
also, so
surgery?
she had a knee replacement.
My mama's had two of her knees replaced. Anyway, go ahead. I apologize.
That's okay. So it's I'm trying to think of his Gmail. But anyways, his Gmail is like his Gmail is goody. It's goody 23 at gmail.com. And you can use his Gmail to link with his Zeely.
And I have been in
Okay,
contact with Bryant Goodman, the gentleman that he's speaking with, and he is responsible uh, for you being in the housing that you're in, correct?
that's correct. Yes.
Yes, yes. And he's here in Charlotte, North Carolina, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes.
That's why yeah. I forgot about that.
Yes, yes, yeah. That's why you connected us a couple weeks ago because you're like Brian lives in Charlotte. So
Yeah,
awesome. Well,
yeah.
Jonathan, it has again been such an incredible, amazing to have you here today. Thank you so much. Everything that you've shared, everything that you've done for yourself, that you continue to do for yourself and others, you know, the
Yeah,
world thanks you.
I appreciate you letting me be on. That was very amazing. And
You're very
keep
welcome.
doing what you're doing. You're providing a public service by letting people like me share our story.
Yeah, absolutely. And as well, after the broadcast ends, all of these lives that because we're live, will be there. They're always going to be on Facebook and YouTube. So you'll be able to click on Jonathan, find out, more about Jonathan, have him on your podcast. I know there are several people who may want to bring you on their podcast as well to create more awareness. And y'all, that's what this is about. Creating awareness, creating more and more awareness so we're all aware, so we're all educated on how we can provide solutions solutions for for people like Jonathan and other people in need. So
Yes, and this is not a local issue. This is a global wide crisis.
yeah,
You know, with the mental illness and the homelessness.
right.
But
Well, all
and
right, Jonathan,
thank you.
thank you. And thank you, everyone who joined us today. And I'm trying to keep my podcast right at an hour because of the platform that I use to post, not here, but Buzzsprout. So, anyway, thank you again, Jonathan. Thank you to everyone who joined and listened today. And if you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay. And if you have any suggestions, if you have any awareness or any experience, please share in comments under our broadcast.
Awesome.
Till next week, everybody. Say bye, Jonathan.
Bye
So,
bye.
Jonathan, you
Thank
stay
you.
right here. I'm just going to end.
All right. Bye.